Welcome to The Struggle is Real by Family Bridges.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of The Struggle is Real, a podcast by Family Bridges, where we hope to encourage parents as they go on their parenting journey. I am your host, Omar Ramos, along with
Veronica, Avila. And let me tell you, if you're listening out there and you're a single parent or no one, you definitely want to stay tuned.
That's right. And as always, we've invited our very own Dr. Alicia. Hello.
Hello.
Clinical psychologist, CEO of Family Bridges, and co-author of The Struggle is Real. And another very special guest. I actually got to see him play many years with the Chicago Bears. Mm-hmm. We'd like to welcome Desmond Clark. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Desmond Clark, ex-Denver Bronco, Miami Dolphin, and Chicago Bear. Nonetheless, he founded a nonprofit called 88 Ways to Mentor and Motivate Youth in Chicago and Florida, and is currently working on a new book. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, Desmond Clark, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, glad to be here. Glad to join the conversation.
And we're happy to have you both here. Desmond, you're a single parent. We're going to talk about that, but we also would like for our listeners to know a little bit more about you. Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, I grew up in Lakeland, Florida. Was there, born and raised first 18 years of my life. My whole family is still basically there in Lakeland, Florida. After graduating from Kathleen High School, was blessed enough to receive a scholarship to go to Wake Forest University, play football there, had a pretty good college career, pretty good academic career, and was drafted by the Denver Broncos in 1999 in the 6th round, and went through a transitional phase of not thinking I was ever going to make the team. And then 13 years later, after 3 years in Denver, 1 year in Miami, and 9 years here at Chicago, I found myself retiring in 2011. But there's been a lot of transformation, and things throughout those years and times that I'm sure we'll get into some of those. But me as a person, I'm a financial advisor now. Mm-hmm. That's my day job, as I call it, but I got a lot of other things that I'm into, one being motivational speaking and helping out the youth. Talked about my 88 Ways Youth Organization, which is no longer in existence anymore since I became a full-time financial professional, but still staying active in the community through NFL alumni, been the president of the Chicago chapter, connecting to a lot of children first organizations. So I keep myself out in the community through NFL alumni. So in a nutshell, that's what I'm doing. That's who I am. Just staying busy.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
You've been doing quite a lot. And you're also a parent.
I am a parent. Yes, I have 4 wonderful kids. I'm starting with my oldest, who is up in North Dakota State now. He's a freshman there, also a walk-on football player. Mm-hmm. And then I have 3 younger ones, 14-year-old twin girls. And then I have my little runt. He's 5. And his job is just to annoy everybody else and then come run to me for cover. So he does a good job of doing that.
That's awesome.
I'm just wondering, your boy in college, is he playing tight end as well? Or?
No, he's a receiver.
He's a receiver.
Yeah, he's not quite as
a little bit faster than Daddy, huh?
A little bit faster, a little bit smaller, and probably actually used to be a little bit stronger. I don't know if he kept that up, but when we used to work out together, he started pushing quite a bit of weight.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Thank you for sharing that with us. So when it comes to parenting, single parents have a couple of things to consider. So we're going to go ahead and dive into the discussion after we listen to Sliding or Deciding.
So, is this good night?
It doesn't have to be. We could get another drink, or we could go for a walk.
A walk? What are you, 80?
I happen to think evening walks are romantic.
Oh, you do you?
Uh-huh.
I could come inside.
I'd like that. I really would. But we can't.
Oh, of course we can.
No, I told you. Jack's asleep in there.
I'll be quiet.
That never works.
Then let's take a car to my place.
No, not yet.
You can't just leave me like this. Oh.
You're trouble, you know that?
The good kind?
I don't know yet.
Let me meet Jack.
Aiden.
I like you. I like that you have a son. It doesn't scare me.
It's nice from a distance, believe me, but you'd feel different if it was every day.
You don't know that.
Neither do you. And Jack doesn't need to spend another night watching TV with another man who probably won't be there in the morning. He has school in the morning. He needs to sleep.
Let me come back in the morning then. For breakfast.
After 3 dates?
What else have I got to do on a Friday morning? We can start slow. Don't worry. Cereal, breakfast pastry, nothing he can't handle. If it all goes well, then who knows? Maybe someday, eggs, bacon, pancakes.
Oh, I knew you were trouble. All right. Breakfast is at 7. We walk to school at 7:30.
You do enjoy a good walk.
You know it.
I will see you in the morning then.
Okay. Good night.
Good night.
Aiden, if for some reason you aren't here in the morning,
I will be.
I know, but if you're not, I really had a good time tonight.
Me too. You know, Beth, I really gotta get home if I'm gonna be back here in 9 hours, so until tomorrow.
Until tomorrow.
Hi, Mommy.
What are you doing up, mister? Were you listening at the door? Were you listening at the door? Oh, you are trouble. I always knew it. My son is so much trouble.
All right, so we heard Beth, who's a single mom, and her son is little Jack. And then she decided not to invite Aiden into her apartment just yet in consideration for her son. Dr. Laos, how common is this for single moms when they're starting to go back into the dating game? And what should be considered before allowing anyone to be in contact with your children?
Yeah, well, that was a great skit in terms of painting a reality of the concerns that perhaps a lot of single moms have. Mm-hmm. You've got some extremes where some moms may not even care, right? And they might have one parent after another, or not parent, but, one paramour after another, and kids get very confused. And in this case, she's being cautious, I think rightly so, because kids, you don't want to confuse them, and you have to know the people and who that is. So I think some just basic dating relationship things that we need to keep in mind. What are they? Is the person compatible? And do you know them? And that's a hard thing, to know who it is that you're going to date at the beginning. You've got all the emotions, the romance. There's some other things that take a little bit of time to develop. And what are some of the tips that we tell people? Get to know the person in different contexts. Are they the same person with your friends? Are they the same person with your coworkers? Do you go to church? Are they the same there? Because sometimes people act one way, perhaps with your family, but they don't act that way with others. And so you get a better breath of who they are. And so just take your time and slow things down a little bit. The tip is get to know someone 3 months and get to know them in different contexts, in the morning, in the evening, in different settings. So you get a good sense of who they are before quickly jumping in and then introducing them to the family. If they don't work out, it creates all sorts of havoc and chaos for the kids.
Most definitely.
Great feedback, Doctor. And I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic over to Desmond now. You stated earlier today that you have become a single father as of late. And how are you managing this status now in your life? Also, what do you think you have to take into consideration before allowing anyone else near your children that you spoke about earlier?
Right. And just out of respect for my wife, I'm not a single father yet.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But by this summer, when my kids come up for the summer, I will be.
Okay.
And one of the things that we've talked about, even with my wife now, is dating and that transition. And right now, I just feel for my kids, it's not a consideration of bringing somebody else in to meet them, because me and their mom was together, and now they had a stepmom for 5 years, and I think it's like a little too much. And I'm not even necessarily looking at it from their point of view of having another parent. I'm looking at it from how they're looking at me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I want them to continue to respect me like they do as dad, as being someone who is responsible and looks after their best interests. I don't want to lose that respect from them of, hey, dad got another girlfriend, or something like that. And that's a concern of mine now. And I don't know when that right time is going to be. It may not be anytime soon. I don't think so anyway. But I mean, that's something that's on my mind. When will that right time be? When will they be ready to start to engage with another person? But that's somewhere down the road, because I got to figure out when I will be ready to engage with another person.
Of course. Thank you for that.
I know, and it's very important to take into consideration, I think, for the kids' sake and for your sake as well. Dr. Alicia, a research professor Scott Stanley came up with exactly this concept that our skit, which is called sliding versus deciding. Can you tell us a little bit more about what this is about?
Well, it's just the idea that sometimes we are conscientious of decisions, and we're not making those decisions straight up. And so what happens is we fall into the oops syndrome, like, oh, this is the feeling of the moment, and we fall in love with our heart, and not with our head and our mind. And so it's like, oops. And so what happens is that because we don't make active decisions, we let things happen to us, then our world starts tightening up and closing in. We don't have as much options available to us. And so oftentimes, what happens, you end up getting in the sack with somebody too quickly. And then because of the feelings, the romance, the passion, maybe this is a jerk, but, oops, this young girl now ends up pregnant, didn't work out, the guy is a loser, he leaves. The world is tightening up. Your options as a single mom that's perhaps young is even more constraining and more limiting. And then, maybe you meet somebody else, you hook up with them, you decide to live in together. Maybe you don't decide to just kind of slide into that situation. You don't have that solid commitment. Then you live with someone. What happens when you live with someone? You end up having babies. And so that's that concept.
Cycle.
It's that cycle. And so the idea is if we're more thoughtful about our future and we make decisions that are more, what do I want? What is the North Star for my life? And what are the goals that I aspire? And then let me make decisions that lead me towards that. And that's going to be healthier for you as an individual and going to lead you to a better outcome. So it's just being more thoughtful and more conscientious about what our vision is for our life, what our purpose is, what do we want, and then making sure that we purposely make decisions that protect our heart, that protect our mind, and lead to just more stability.
Doctor, thank you for sharing that with us. Some of the consequences, sliding versus deciding. So taking precautions when considering a new love prospect is definitely important for any parent. That's one part. Another very crucial part of a child's life is his or her father's active role in his life after separation. Let's listen to this skit. This is called Saturday with Dad.
Malcolm! Malcolm! Wait here, Benny.
I want to go in too.
You can, but first do me a favor. Run back outside to that ice cream vendor. Here, take this. And get your dad a rainbow snow cone. Get yourself anything you want.
Do you want anything?
No, thank you, baby. Hurry up. Malcolm? Malcolm, wake up.
What?
What are you, drunk?
No, I'm asleep.
On the floor?
What do you want, Dolores?
It's Saturday.
And?
And it's your afternoon with Benny. Jesus. Do you want us to just go?
Oh, no. No, just let me, here, give me a hand.
I'm not cleaning your apartment. Why don't you just take Benny out for a few hours?
I don't have any money.
Here, take him to the planetarium or a movie, PG or G.
Oh.
I'm not messing around. The counselor said we need to enforce boundaries and maintain some semblance of normalcy. She also says allowing your regular visits are a good thing for Benny. You gonna make me regret that?
Okay. Planetarium, PG movie, pie at the diner.
No, Malcolm, he needs food. Real food. A sandwich, some chicken fingers. You know this stuff.
Anything else?
Have fun. I know you can do that.
What's up, little man?
Hi, Dad.
What are you standing in the door for? Get over here and give me a hug. Here he comes. Oh, that's my boy. That's my Benny. Is that my ice cream? Did you get me ice cream?
I got you a snow cone.
Well, let's go eat it in the park.
This room's all dirty.
Yeah, you're right. I need to work on that. But let's not waste any more time in this boring old place. Let's go.
Okay.
I'll meet you back here at 7.
All right, Benny. We got 6 hours to cram a whole bunch of stuff in. You think we can do it?
Yeah.
You bet we can, my man. Let's go. Can you lock up?
After you.
Benny, 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 Benny.
Okay, so we're back, and this is one of many possible scenarios. We heard Malcolm oversleeping during the afternoon. He was scheduled to spend some time with his son, Benny. Fortunately, Dolores stuck around, and they made it work. Dr. Alicia, tell us about the benefits of a father being involved in their kids' lives?
Oh, huge, huge. Just think about your own life. Think about the role your own father had and how much we long for our fathers to be present. But, just an overwhelming amount of studies show the benefit it is for the kids. It has an impact on their academic studies, their social life, their careers in the future. Will they end up, going towards a track of, juvenile delinquency, or will they go towards a track of, purpose in life? All has to do with father's engagement. And it's the script that is really important, and it's embedded in a kid's life. And to be able to have a father who's actively engaged, that's really important. And regardless of what parents are going through, it's just important to remember that dads need to show up. And historically there's been differences in how dads have been involved. Back in the day, I know we had one session that we talked about generation depression era generations, where it was more the moms, and perhaps dads kind of had this presence that was a figure of a presence of a dad that would come in and be the disciplinarian. But now more and more you see studies. The CDC showed a study how much more parents are involved, and that's great. And fathers particularly, they're changing diapers and they're playing with their kids and playing tussle and bustle with the kids and playing a different type of games with the kids that is really nurturing, and it's different than what moms provide. And so it's encouraging to see that movement, that you do see slowly more involvement of fathers. And we just want to encourage any fathers out there that definitely be involved in your child's life.
Going back into what you were saying about the parents' role back in the day, at least I can say from my upbringing, it was more like the provider or the disciplinarian, right? And then the mom was more involved. But obviously, I mean, there's so many benefits, not only for the kids, but for the dads as well. I think I'm a mom, I'm not a dad. So I'm going to ask Desmond, and I'm also going to ask Omar after you respond. How do you make the time to work with your kids? I know some of your kids are out of state. How do you make it work?
Well, I mean, you just got to be intentional about what you're doing. And, I intentionally make time for my kids to call them, to ask about their day. When they come up in the summer, I make myself a whole lot less busy just to, I only get a small amount of time. Yeah. I have to make sure that time is good when they're with me. And just going back to something that you said about your dad, my dad wasn't around for me. When I was young, that time when my dad was around was some of the best times. And I chased my dad all around the streets of Lakeland, Florida. And just knowing how I felt about my dad and wanting his attention and wanting him to be there and wanting him to straighten up and all of that stuff, that helped develop my mindset with my kids, that I never want them to have to long for me. One of my girls playing basketball, I got to go to a couple of basketball games. Another one is a drawer and an artist, so I have to be there, and I got to try to draw also, to share some of those experiences with them. My oldest, he's playing football, so we used to get up and work out at 5 o'clock in the morning together before he went to school. Really, it's just got to be intentional about what you're doing. You said slide to the side. You just can't slide into a great relationship with your kids. It's a very intentional thing, and just trying to find out how to best connect with them at their level. I think a lot of times as parents, we try to get our kids to come to us instead of us kind of going to them. Yes. Yeah. And I try to go to them as much as possible, and they reciprocate it. They come to me a lot also.
That's awesome. Yeah. You mentioned something that's key. You want to try to connect, because you don't just want to be there and, okay, we're in the same room, et cetera, but you want to make sure that they're connecting, and then you'll get a good response from your kids as well.
And that quality time is amazing. So it's not like you have to be 365 days all around. It's when you are there, make it count, and just build that solid relationship. I love it, being intentional.
Yes, and that's exactly the question that I was going to ask Omar. I know that you work a lot too, and you have the time with your daughter. How do you make it work, even with a busy schedule?
Well, like Desmond said, it's very intentional, and I have to organize myself a lot, because every week, I have different assignments and stuff like that. But I make the effort. I know that she's fairly young and that I have to be there as much as I can, and not because I have to be there, it's because I want to be there. I get involved in school activities and things that she needs to get done. Thank God for technology. I'm able to connect with her via, FaceTime, and we talk, whether it be homework or whether it be some issue that she has at school. And it's funny that Desmond was just mentioning something right now about that sometimes we expect, because we do things for our kids, we expect them to look for us. And I was making that mistake for a long time. I was getting angry because she wouldn't text me. Like, what are you doing? I bought you that phone. You need to text me. You literally look for me. But I was like, these kids are, nowadays it seems like they're overwhelmed with so much stuff. She wants to be in the swimming team, the jiu-jitsu team. She wants to do this, and she wants to compete because she has an older sister that's like her competition. So I try to connect with her so I could keep her grounded and that she doesn't go like, cuckoo on me and stuff like that. So, Doctor, I'm going to go ahead and over and pass the baton to you again. In many cases, when relationships end, unfortunately, father involvement drops off. It's not in my case because I try to be there, but I have seen it with some of my colleagues and some of my friends. This is a huge challenge for many mommies out there and even more for children. What are some of the consequences?
Yeah, and I mean, that's a good question, but my thought still is in the original conversation, so I'm going to go back and ask it twice. I think just, again, you guys both talked about your daughters and how involved you are, and I just want to highlight how important that is. There's a couple different studies that have been phenomenal and very interesting in how the role of a father is important in terms of determining the future of that daughter's husband or future, because it's what they see in who you are. Are you respectable? Are you kind? Do you pursue her? All of these things, you're showing value to them, you're honoring them, you're being intentional. And that's just a scheme for them that shows you this is how you should be treated as a woman. And so that scheme is developed in them, and then when they pursue their own relationships, that is just incredibly helpful. So there's some interesting studies that do reinforce that. I just want to highlight that part.
And you know what? When we talk about being intentional, I'm intentionally trying to make it hard on that man.
There you go.
Yes. Because he's going to have a high standard.
High standard for sure.
Well, good.
That's good. That's
because
good.
she needs to be treated well. So good. It just came to my mind. Dad and daughter
dances.
Events. Do them. The kids get so excited about this. That memory is going to stay there forever.
It shows that you value them.
Yes.
Yeah. But going back to your question, it's hard to manage. If there's multiple relationships, it's difficult. I imagine it's like you got to become a manager, right, of the kids and the parents and things like that. So that does happen, and unfortunately kids get hurt. They want their dad to be around.
Exactly.
They long for them to be present, and it's not their fault that mom and dad are not getting along. That happens. Adults have issues, and so they just need to understand that's not about them. But kids carry that weight, especially if the parents or the dad doesn't show up. So how important it is to show up, make an effort. I know it's hard. It's difficult to disentangle to the fighting and the arguing and all that. But you always have to remember it's your kid. Love them, and that's what they cherish and that's what they care for. When they don't have that, they start doing mind games. Is it my fault? Did I do something wrong? I'm not lovable. And they start adopting the shame script.
Wow. So yes, definitely, your role is very, very important. And I know you touched a little bit, Desmond, on this, but I'm going to ask both of you, because you're both the fathers here. How important was the role of your father in becoming the father that you are today?
I learned a lot through my father. Because he made a ton of mistakes. Because of his mistakes, it was like, I'm definitely not going down that direction. Even with my relationship with my wife, from what I've seen with him and my mom. And actually, we just had a great conversation a couple weeks ago, because obviously I'm going through a divorce. And one thing that I told him is, I never wanted to be like you as a husband, from what I've seen in my early days, because I just found myself being angry about stuff. And I'm not an angry person. I just get up every day, and literally when I get up in the morning and my feet hit the ground every morning, I say, let's go, because that's just my mentality. But, my dad was strung out on drugs. He kind of abandoned the family, put us in a bad situation. He got shot on 3 different occasions. The third time, it left him blinded, October 17th of 1989, going in and out of drug houses trying to find him, and just spend that time with him and seeing everything that I've seen. First of all, it made me scared of drugs. And I said, hey, I would never do that, because I seen my hero go to somebody who I couldn't even recognize in a picture almost. And then all of the struggle that he had went through, say, I just don't want to go that route. And that kind of set me into a direction of just wanting to do a whole lot better. And so when I had my kids, that was my focus. It was, all right, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be present, because I wanted my dad to be present, and he wasn't present until after I kind of grew up, and I was 17, 18 when he got his act together and became the father who he was supposed to be after that time. But it was through his mistakes that I learned all of my valuable lessons as a father and as a husband. So, and we talk about it today, and he embraces it.
Yeah.
Because he understands that his struggles helped his sons become better men. So we could sit back and talk about those things now, but it was huge just watching him go through all of his trials and tribulations throughout life.
Wow, well, I'm glad you were able to learn. Yes.
And forgive. And forgive.
Yeah, forgive. Yeah, for sure.
That was my mom's doing.
Yeah.
Because she never put him in a light of being anything but our father.
Yeah.
No judgment, no, your dad's a bum, your dad's a crack addict. She never talked bad about him, and she had every opportunity and probably every right to. She never did. So we never developed that negative energy for our father.
Powerful
Good
example.
stuff, for sure. And just quickly here, my dad was a very hardworking man, migrated from Mexico to California, and I grew up on a ranch. Just watching him, not a very expressive man, but a very kind, hardworking individual. And I think that's where I kind of developed my working skills ever since I was a child. So, I freak out every time I'm not doing something, like I need to be working. But, I grew up thinking, my dad was not very expressive. He never went to my baseball games and stuff like that. And I kind of had that void in me. And I had that grudge towards him because I would see other fathers go to the baseball games and the football games and stuff like that. And I was like thinking to myself, when I get older and I do have a child, I'm going to be like he set up this scenario for me to just kind of like not want to be like him as far as a fatherly figure. Like I wanted to be the best dad. I wanted to be super communicative with my daughter and just be the person that my father was not with me. So I guess my father being the way that he was kind of developed me into the dad that I am today. You kind of learn from his mistakes, exactly, just to kind of piggyback on what Desmond was mentioning right now.
What a beautiful testimony that you both have, that you can say, because I lived and experienced this, it doesn't mean that I need to live that experience.
Exactly.
I have a new chapter in my life. Turn the page and learn from it and move forward.
Thank you for sharing that, guys. Thank you. Well, we've talked about things to consider when dating and also about father involvement. So why don't we go a bit further? Let's talk about single parents remarrying and what this whole new step family dynamic can look like, the blended family. This is the yours, mine, and ours skit.
Whoa, look at all these things.
Don't touch that. It's fragile.
Where's the Empire State Building?
The Empire State Building's a joke. These are the 10 tallest buildings in the world. Nothing below 1,500 feet.
This one's unfinished. Can I do some?
No.
I'm your brother now. We can share.
You're my stepbrother.
Okie dokie, artichokes. The moving trucks will be here at noon. Let's get this room packed up.
Emma's not sharing, Dad.
He's messing with the Shanghai Tower. He doesn't even know what it looks like.
It's a building. It goes straight up.
It's more complicated than that.
Hey, Brian, Cynthia, Mom, is in the garage. Can you help her with the shelves?
Sure.
Thank you. Wow, he's right. These are amazing, Emma.
I made them with my dad.
Yeah, well, your mother told me you'd have some very special items, which is why I got you this bubble wrap and this packing foam. Pretty neat, huh? I snagged it from work. It's called convoluted polyurethane.
I can pack with my mom.
She asked me to come up and help.
I can do it myself then.
Okay. I get it. I'll start going through your closet.
I don't want you to.
We have to kind of get moving here, kiddo.
Don't call me kiddo.
All right. Emma. What's on your mind?
Nothing.
A smart kid like you? There's got to be something going on in there.
I don't like this.
Moving?
No. This, your pep talk, I have a dad already.
I know. And I know that you love him. No one's trying to change that. But my job now is to make your mom happy. And it's important to me that you're happy too. Do you believe me?
I don't want to call you Dad.
What about Chuck?
Okay.
Cool. Now, for your mom's sanity, we gotta finish packing this house up in the next 4 hours. I can start wherever you want. Should I start by taking your desk apart?
Yeah.
Great. So I read that I read actually that most of the tallest buildings in the world are in China. Why is that, do you think?
They value beautiful architecture.
Is that something you'd like to do one day, architecture?
I'm going to be a structural engineer.
Oh, wow. What's the difference between that and an architect?
Okay, so we're back, and we have two single parents that have decided to remarry, creating a new blended family. We met Brian, 12, Chuck's son from the first marriage, who was very friendly to his new stepsister, Emma, who is on a whole different roller coaster, who also is 12, same age, but not too excited about the new family. Dr. Alicia, what is it that parents that decide to create a blended family need to consider before remarrying?
I think a lot of things.
Right.
Obviously, besides the logistics of moving and all that, I think emotionally, are you ready? You got to grieve the one relationship that you've been, and that's going to take a process. And everybody has a different time frame of when that is. But, you want to grieve that. Give yourself time to just hurt and just process what didn't work and get some insights, like kind of get a handle of what went wrong and understand the cycle, because we tend to be the same people from relationship to relationship. And so we want to know, what are we attracting, what are we doing, so that we have a pulse on it and we don't repeat it in the future. And so just get a sense of what's going on, and maybe you need to go to counseling, or you need to just process it, figure it out, so that you don't repeat the worst version of yourself in another relationship. That's just really important. And then secondly, with the kids, just there's a lot of conversations that need to be had with them so that they can understand that and process that.
Do your research,
right? Yeah.
Do your research on all of them. What does he like? What does she doesn't like? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Definitely. This one's for Desmond. I know you mentioned you have a stepson. How was that experience for you in the beginning, and how is it now?
It's great now, and it started off really, really good. But some point after the start, we kind of hit some bumps. In one particular instance, it's like, hey, I don't want you to treat me like a kid. And he was 14. I said, okay, let's make a deal. I don't treat you like a kid. You want to be treated like a young man, right? I will always treat you like a young man. But here's the deal. If I'm going to treat you like a young man, comes young man responsibilities. And we laid all of this out. And that was the start of our discipline relationship. If something got out of line, I always went back to that. And I always said I was going to treat you like a young man, but you also said that you're going to do these things. So if you're not going to do these things, I can't treat you like a young man. And these are the consequences to that. And once I got to understand him and his style, very quiet, don't really talk a lot, don't really share his emotions, teenagers. And I was able to communicate with him like he wanted to be communicated. We became real, real close. I only say this just to illustrate our closeness. Like when he comes back home now, he still comes home and he still stays with me, although his relationship with his mom is still good also. And I love the fact that he's comfortable enough to come back and, hey, I'm just going to stay with you.
It's that connection. We go back to that connection. That's awesome.
And I think what you mentioned is a great point, too, about one of the tips that we want to give people when they are in blended relationships and how to manage that and how to transition step families and the kids. And basically, it's you move into the relationship and the discipline slowly. I mean, that was just a great example of that, instead of just kind of badgering it in and being kind of very authoritarian,
They'll probably shut down.
They shut down.
Build a wall.
And what I did, I just let him develop his own way of how he wanted me to be a disciplinarian with him. He developed that. And I just, okay, well, if that's what you want, that's what we'll do.
You kind of went along.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was great.
Dr. Alicia, can you share some tips with us as far as how parents that are deciding to remarry, how can they prepare for the transition?
Focusing on the children, I think there are going to be some clash with different styles. You're going to be, one person might be more rigid, another might be more, relaxed. So know those differences, but just make sure that somehow you're passing authority to the step parents and letting the kids know and giving them that role and that responsibility. And it's going to be a process. So just know you're going to have some objections because people, one kid is used to one style and there's going to be some friction and some roller coaster rides at the beginning before everybody kind of adjusts themselves. And I think what we just mentioned, moving slowly into that relationship and allowing the development of that relationship in order for that discipline to occur, because otherwise it really creates more friction and it is way more challenging than it would need to be.
And if you see that resistance, that friction, how would you recommend parents take about that situation with the kids?
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to just talk it out, be real with the kids, just be very honest, be very real with them. And it depends on the different circumstances, but you got to go with the flow, speak to them directly. And then at the end, come up with some norms and rules in the house that everybody can agree with. Make sure that they're clear and very specific with whatever they might be. Anything from going to bed on time, these are the time frames, to the rules about going out and just you as a couple agree on them, present them to the kids, and then that way you can both present a united front. These are rules that are good for all parents and step families. I think it's really important because what happens is when one kid goes back home, perhaps with one of the biological parents, they've got a different set of rules, and then they come back home and there's a different set of rules, and it can be a clash at the beginning. They're going to be trying to fight it. But if you have these standard rules, if you will, that you both go as a united front, that's going to be easier to implement, and eventually the kids will adjust.
Alrighty, well, it's been an interesting conversation, a great conversation as far as how we could become better single parents or better parents when we want to start a blended family. Thank you once again to Desmond Clark. I know you were mentioning that you have a book already and that you're working on another one. Did you want to just kind of add on that?
Well, yeah. The name of my book that I have out now is Before and Beyond the Game. And as I was discussing with you, that book was put out to reintroduce myself as a real person.
Yes, sir.
My wife, she used to get a kick. People used to come up, "Oh, you're a real bear," and she just used to chuckle like, "Oh, I didn't know that you are a bear." And then the second thing was to help mentor kids without saying that I was mentoring kids, by really just showing what a whole man is, all the flaws and the good parts with it. And my next book that I've started is One Life, and just really saying, hey, we have this one life that we live, and we need to do it right the first time. We don't get any do-overs.
Yeah, we don't.
And really stressing my 5 F's, faith, family, fitness, finance, and fun. Because I really believe when you put those things together, that's when you have the best chance of living life to the fullest of its capacity.
All right. I was also going to ask you how we can fix the Chicago Bears, but I guess we'll leave that up to another podcast.
Man, they have to pay me a whole lot of money to figure that one out.
All right, cool.
Where can we get your book?
Right now, I only sell them when I'm out speaking.
Okay.
But my next one, definitely, I'm working with a publisher where that'll be on Amazon and bookstores also.
Good stuff.
All right. Well, thank you all for being here. Thank you to our listeners out there. Don't miss our next podcast. It's going to be a Mother's Day special. That's going to be nice.
Nice.
Yes, this is The Struggle is Real, a podcast by Family Bridges. Make sure to download it on iTunes and share it with your friends and just anybody and everybody that you know.
Please do that. And for additional blogs, tips, and other resources, follow us on social media. # The Struggle is Real, or para cortito, #TSIR. And FamilyBridgesUSA.com is the official website.
That's right. Thanks for listening again. I'm Veronica Avila.
And on this side, Omar Ramos.
Till next time.
This was The Struggle is Real by Family Bridges. For more ideas on parenting, get your copy of The Struggle is Real by Doctors Paul Meyer and Alicia on FamilyBridgesUSA.com.